going to do a general update video on my palms, and I want to show some new ones I got, what I'm planning, and just how my palms are doing. So these are the royal seeds I had collected while I was in South Florida, and I cleaned them up. I did have some pretty poor germination in terms of royals. They usually readily germinate. I honestly didn't think they were going to germinate because most germinate in between 4 and 8 weeks. I got the first sprout at around 11 weeks, which is very long, so I didn't think I was getting any. And then I was even getting sprouts now, like this one here and these two right over here are very recent. And I got some of these young ones. They're coming up with some nice strap leaves. Hopefully I'll put one of these in the front in a few years once they get some size on them. I'll definitely be bringing these in during freeze events this winter. Most royals can take them and they'll recover fairly well. Our Central Florida freeze events, I'm surprised most people opt out of planting these, because you can grow them here. They just need to have some size. Frost would kill these since they're so small. Alright, moving on, I'll show you guys the Fiji Dwarf Coconut. I actually decided to take back the pine straw. Wasn't really doing too many favors to the tree. A lot of things were ants in it, a lot of problems. And I did show you guys the leaf bases. I laid down a bag of cow manure. It wasn't quite enough. I was thinking one bag would have been enough. I'll have to go back and get another one, but for the most part it did the job. And you guys can see a little more trunk there. I actually tore off 3 leaf bases. Now, they weren't necessarily ready to give. They were ready enough to give out. And there's now some trunk on the back side here. And the cow manure is covering it up a little bit, but it's probably about another inch or so of trunk showing. And I had tore off those 3 leaf bases because there were ants, an ant's nest harboring in them, and I couldn't get rid of them. They kind of eat away at the tree. The ants have been pretty relentless this year. And you guys can see there's 2 of them right there. The other one's somewhere in the pile. So I tore those off, and the ants lost their nest. So that's a really, really good thing. And you guys can see this leaf is missing. I'd come home one day and it looks like something either tore it off or broke. And we didn't even have a storm that bad. I think the highest winds were amongst 10 miles an hour. So it's likely something broke it, which is really odd because the leaf wasn't even beneath where this side of the tree. It was laying right alongside the trunk on the opposite side of the tree. So really odd. Wasn't very happy to see that because this tree is almost made a full recovery from the winter. It's having a nice crown and an entire leaf just gone. But other than that, the overall look of this tree, it's looking pretty nice. The leaves are bigger this year, the growth is darker, there's no sunburn, and that's the result of an established tree. You can see from this view it looks much better. You can tell, I think I did a pretty good job establishing this tree. Look how dark the growth is. It's really dark and lush in color. They come out with a little bit light green, a little yellow. That's just how the fronds open, and then they turn dark as the frond opens and matures. But it's probably overall right now sitting at the highest leaf, probably about 9 feet. So it's actually got some decent height. Fiji dwarfs are notoriously slow to fruit, so I'm kind of hoping that it might throw a spat. It's pretty thin for a coconut. It's probably not going to get much thicker than that. It didn't from last year, but it's not so small that it couldn't throw a flower spath in fruit. So but this will stay extremely short, as Fiji dwarfs, most of them do. And you can see Fiji dwarfs, I love how they do this, where these fronds, the leaflets hang down at the end of the, creates a nice, it's pretty nice. They kind of droop the bottom leaflets on the fronds. And we got another spear starting to crack. It'll be open shortly. And I'm hoping for one more before this season closes out. Looks pretty good though. Get you guys a view from over here. It's really nice. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. That's a nice Fiji dwarf right there. And I'll show you guys some of the new palms I have over here. I picked up 3 young Bario Phoenix alfredii. Now, a lot of these had a fungal issue. You can see it on the new spear. There's some spots. And they're really bad amongst some of the specimens. They're fairly bad on this. There's quite a lot of them. And you guys could see that. And they're spreading because Bario Phoenix doesn't like water on its leaves. It hates that, and they dislike being in pots. I'm hoping to put at least one of these in the ground. The other 2 I'm unsure what I'll do with, but I got a deal on price for 3 of them. So I have 3. I'm gonna move them up to 5 gallons. You can see their roots are coming out of the bottom, and they have a pretty large mass underneath the pot. So they're ready to move up. They actually prefer to be a little drier, so I'm only moving them up to 5 gallons so they don't stay wet too long. Otherwise I'd move them up to 7, but I think 5 is the move here. But they look pretty good. 3 young Bario Phoenix. Now these look like coconuts. They look almost exactly alike in their fronds, but they're different in the way their fibers on the trunk are, and the fact that they don't produce coconuts. But it is a great substitute for coconut palms, as you can grow this tree to look like it, and it's cold hardy down to about 26 degrees. So as where the coconut will die in that, the Bario Phoenix would handle that with most light freezes with no damage. So that's nice. I like Bario Phoenix. I prefer Bario Phoenix fenestralis. That one's slower, and I've heard it's a little more frost tender, but I'm having a little trouble finding that one. So this one I'll have to do. And here's my red spicata. Got a little bit of actually one of these leaf bases came off. The ants have been playing with it. There's a little bit of hardwood showing. Not exactly what I'm wanting to see. I prefer they continue to get larger. We'll see. It's almost ready to open a new spear. As you guys can see, it's looking pretty nice. And I do think I want to start with coconuts probably around this size, if not around the size of my Fiji dwarf, simply because they have less problems. And I'll get to that when I move to these younger ones. They pretty much haven't put out a new spear in almost 2 months. This has remained the same. You can see here, there's the new one. And I mean, there's a hole down in the trunk of the Panama tall. And look down here. You see that? The new growth is turning brown inside the spear. It's almost as if it's rotting from the middle out. And this leaf died first, and yet the oldest one died second. There's a lot of problems. I moved them in the shade. I think it was the heat, and I don't think it's the heat now. These are grown pretty much in full shade for weeks now. Nothing has changed, and if anything, they're getting worse. And I know there are ants inside of this, inside the coconut. I've sprayed both fungicide and the pesticides to get rid of pests and other issues, and I don't see there's any pests in there. There's just, and it's not like I don't know how to grow a coconut tree. I'm pretty well versed in growing them. I've dedicated a lot of time into studying them, what they like, people's experience growing them inland in Central Florida, and what they like, what they don't like. I'm pretty well versed in growing a coconut tree, and I mean, you guys can see on my larger specimens, the growth is dark, it's healthy, and I get really good growth off of my larger ones. The only difference is I think these are in pots. I'm unsure if I'll actually plant these in the ground if the problems don't lighten up. There are a lot of other palms I want to grow, and if I did, I would want to start with larger specimens, as such as these. They have far less problems. It seems the young ones, between the pest and rots, have just been really bad this year, and I don't know. The young ones seem to be problematic. They're very finicky compared to a coconut that's juvenile like this, and it's not a seedling. And most of my other palm seedlings fare pretty well, so I don't know why these have been problematic. Maybe it's some root disturbance. I know the Jamaican talls can have some serious problems with root disturbance. Maybe something on that. It's in underground, under the roots I'm not seeing, but we'll have to see. And there's a couple palms I would like. There's a couple things I might do. I may not plant these talls under here. I might actually keep this canopy. It makes quite a difference, which is probably why the spicata didn't burn as much as the Fiji Dwarf last year. I may put another Fiji Dwarf directly under here. It would be in more shade, but a Fiji Dwarf handles the cold weather pretty well, and it would be under a canopy, giving it access to where it probably would survive indefinitely almost in this climate, because you pretty much under a canopy take away frost damage, which is really great. And Fiji Dwarfs, since they stay so short, you're talking about less than a foot of trunk a year, so they're going to stay short. I could grow it under this canopy for a very long time. So I am going to grow those. That's I don't know if I'm going to do that, but that was a thought. You guys can let me know in the comments if you think that's a good idea. I'm trying to find a couple other palms, and I'll make videos on those if I am successful in finding them. I really hope I am, because I'd love to put one in the front. But that won't be probably till the first 3 months of next year. Somewhere in between there, I'll probably get one of those if I'm available to find them. If I can find them. But those are my palms and how they are doing. Problems, what's doing well, future plans. I hope you guys enjoy these palms, and hopefully we'll see some fruit, maybe off of the Fiji Dwarf next year or the year after. And I'll see you guys in the next update.